let's look at some previous discussions of cases where it seemed like people didn't get along with each other with regard to an Eruv. So he quotes a Maram Shik, who's relating to Chacham Tzvi. So I'm going to start with the Chacham Tzvi. Chacham Tzvi and Siman Kuf Yud Beis is a somewhat different topic, but I think interesting. Chacham Tzvi writes, when I came to Hamburg 22 years ago, so the Sefer was printed in Taf Ayin Beis, 1712, so I probably wrote it somewhere around then. So 22 years before, he was a younger man. He came to Hamburg, Ahu, one of the three cities of Ahu, and he sees there are many shuls. Hamburg already had many shuls, and every shul had its own pas for the Eruv. Because the minhag was to leave the Eruv in the shul, and we'll see later, even Tanam Ram Shik, that was the minhag, to leave the Eruv in the shul. But there were many shuls, so what do? They put many Eruv in many shuls. So Chacham Tzvi said, I told them, you got it all wrong, this is terrible mistake, because the whole vart of the Eruv is that we're all trying to unify and say that we all live a bayis echad, that house where the Eruv is, and all the chatzeres, etc., whether it's an Eruv chatzeres or Shituf Mavayas, it's all relating to that one location, and everything else is an ispashtusa from there. Then he quotes, and we see that it says that if you have one Eruv in one house, but you put it in two kalim for no reason, not like you didn't have enough room, you split into two kalim, state that it's not good. So kol shekain, if you divide the Eruv into two houses, everyone would understand that it's not a good Eruv. The whole word is that it should not be a chalukah, there shouldn't be a division. Once you divide the Eruv, so you divided the actual reshus. So you didn't unify all the reshuyas, so the whole thing is a failure. And the bracha is a bracha levatala, and you're being over, and takan of shlema malach, mchal Shabbos issa derabanan. This was his argument. Now, people in Hamburg weren't so happy to be told that the Alta Minig, or Chashav Alta Minig, is wrong. So he's very dismissive. He says, oh yeah, there were these people, hamafatpatim kenegdi b'divrei havai, loy b'chachma. So I have to respond, I have to react to them. So let me explain why, even what they're saying, even their drays, the doichiks that they're offering are wrong. And he adds that there's no difference between whether everyone's giving their own pass or whether echad is mezakeh l'kulam. That you're going to tell me what? Only when everyone gives their own pass, then there's a problem with splitting it. But if one is mezakeh l'kulam, so then you could split it. No, first of all, it doesn't say it in Gemara, it doesn't say it in Paiskim. But also, again, the whole part of Eruv is that it's all in one place. So the second, you make two Zikuis to Eruv, so the whole thing fell apart. No, and you're going to tell me that everyone should make an Eruv in their own house. It's ridiculous. And again, the people that are insisting that it's fine, they didn't have a good answer. So at the end, but they couldn't argue with me anymore. They finally started saying, no, actually, it's not Alts Eruv. We're hanging it Stam Alts Derech Noi or something, decorative. We're having decorative Lechem Pas Eruv hanging in the shul. He says, that's ridiculous, because until now they were making a bracha on each one, and at least they're not making a bracha levatala anymore, that's good, but even l'shem noi would be usher to hang them. Because the whole word is that Shlita shtakach, there's a whole word in the Eruv, Shlita shtakach, teiras Eruv, menat tinaikis, you want the tinaikis to know what's what, and all they know is pas, so you start hanging pas, derech noi, so you're just confusing them. They think there are multiple Eruvs, everyone in this city thought there were multiple Eruvs. So even the derech noi is no good. You have to have one pas, one uga, and one shul, and that's it. That was the Chacham Tzvi. The Chacham Tzvi wasn't talking about a case of machlekes, except the machlekes that he created himself. But meaning the idea was that there were multiple Eruvin just for whatever reason, and still he said it's not okay. And now we advance to the Teshuva of the Maram Shik. Maram Shik is talking about a case in which the community is split, is divided. In what scenario, in what case was the community divided in the time of the Maram Shik? So, as we know, at the time of the Maram Shik, there was the big Telung in Hungary. Reform became a thing, and the Orthodox and the Reform couldn't get along. And at one point, they were fighting and struggling to sort of convince the government that each one is the legitimate version of Judaism, and then at some point, it looked like the Reform were actually going to run away with it, and they're going to be the recognized form of Judaism, and the Orthodox fought until the government recognized, okay, there's, right, because back in those days, state religion, they weren't very tolerant of multiple religions. There's Christianity, there's Judaism, and maybe two flavors of Christianity, but that's it. So they had to establish a precedent that there's Orthodox and there's not Orthodox. So after that, you had Orthodox, that's where the term originates, actually, or for Orthodox Judaism. You had the term Neolog were like the Reform. You also had some kehillas that were called status quo. They actually didn't take any sides. And the Orthodox Jewish communities there did not appreciate that, although there are some Chashavei Rabbanim whose names we know today, who actually were Rabbanim in status quo communities at one point or another. In fact, I believe even the Yaakov Lev from the Satmar dynasty, Sighet, I believe they say was a Rav in a status quo community at one point, but we don't talk about that. But the Orthodox community, speaking of not taking a stance and standing in the middle, the Orthodox community didn't look very kindly on those who didn't want to take a side. So you have this tailong, okay? So the Maram Shik, Simon Chaim, Simon Kafayim Vav, he's writing to Rav and Moshe Polak Segal in Bonihad, and he emphasizes Bekahal HaYereim. So that's the emphasis is that he's from the Orthodox. And the issue is that there used to be one Eruv in the big shul, but now the big shul is no longer from the Kal HaYereim. So the Frum Olam is doing their own Eruv in their own shul. Now wait a second, what about the Chacham Tzvi? What's going on here? And there's seemingly nothing we could do about it, because the Neologs, they're doing their thing. They certainly can't convince them not to do theirs. And there's no way the Orthodox can ever make peace with them and rely on them. So they have to make their own, but if they make their own, there's a problem. We're stuck. What do we do? And he says, the Dayan there said, yeah, it's got to be in the big shul. It's got to be in the big shul. And Rabbi Polak Segal said, no. Number one, it's a matzah. The Eruv is we do it Pesach time, it's a matzah. He says, we can't rely on them. Their matzahs are not matzahs. They were making matzahs, but you can't trust their kashrus, can't trust the way they prepare for Pesach. So it's nishkin kasher matzahs, nishkin kasher Eruv. And number two, they took the old shul and they turned it into a kar shul, a temple shul. So Frum Yidden are not allowed to go in there anymore mitzad adin. Plus, there's a Teiras Neder that they said we're never going to step foot in there. So we can't work with them. So on the one hand, it should be in the big shul. On the other hand, we can't cooperate with the big shul. So he says, we have the Chacham Tzvi, and then the Maram Shik basically starts disagreeing with the Chacham Tzvi. He says, first of all, there's a Beis Yosef, the Kotzer Rabeinu Yonason, that when it says that you split your Eruv, it's not a good Eruv. That's dafka when you're in a fight with each other and you don't want your chelek to go with your friend's chelek. But if you're not makpid, if you get along and you just for whatever reason want to have multiple Eruvin, then it shouldn't be a problem. So that would be like over here. The Beis Yosef doesn't necessarily agree with the Rabeinu Yonason. But Bechlal, Zok the Maram Shik, that we don't have the Beis Yosef and the Ramah and Simon Shin Samach Vav say the minig is to put the Eruv in the shul. And others wondered about why are we putting it in the shul? Well, where did this minute come from to put it in the shul? So he says the Evan Oezer is masbir that you know why we put the Eruv in the shul? Because the shul is nishkim beis dira. So if you put the Eruv in a house, then it could be that the shul is not included in the Eruv. So you wouldn't be allowed to carry you're allowed to carry in your house and in the street, but the shul itself would be excluded from the Eruv. So the only way to include the shul in the Eruv is by putting the Eruv in the shul. That's where the minute comes from. No, what if you have many shuls? So lefi the minig of the Ramah, lefi the husband, Evan Eizer, Musman Zagel, no, you need to put an Eruv in every single shul. And that was the reason for the minig in Hamburg. And that was what the Chacham Tzvi didn't understand. That's why he was getting upset, but he didn't understand this vart, Tzak the Maram Shik. And you can't say that the second Eruv is mevatel the first Eruv, because it says in Ksubis with shtei shtaris, you have two shtaris that are issued on the same day. That if you write the second one and you add something in the second one, it's not mevatel the first one. They're both good. So each new Eruv, each subsequent Eruv is just adding to the previous one. It's adding another shul. Every Eruv that I put in a shul adds that shul to the Eruv. Now, so by the way, this is also relevant. You hear all this. Those who those who say that there's now a large Eruv that encompasses much of Brooklyn. So that would be a question you might have. wait a second, they're already Eruv in smaller communities, you're making an Eruv that includes Eruvin. So okay, so this is that vart, that every time you add more to the Eruv, that's fine. With Truma also, each person can be Teirim after the other. So the Minig in Hamburg was right all along. And this is Benidin Didan, that the Eruv and the Kar Shul, the choir shul, isn't good for us, we're not allowed to go there. It says, Lav Dafka. It says you're allowed to make an Eruv for a Nazir with wine. He doesn't have a shaykhus to the wine, but it's not good for him, it's good for others. And if there's a neder, you did something with a neder, right? The shul is a neder to them. So let's say you made an Eruv with something that's a neder, it's also to someone, he can ask, he can be matter neder. So he's not so nispal. The Eruv and the Reform shul can work for you. It's not so bad, which is interesting. You're going to tell me, you're not allowed to go there. So I already explained, he says in Siman Ayin Aleph, you're not allowed to go there to daven. Or even you're not allowed to be there when they're davening. But let's say you wanted to go there to bring the Eruv, or you wanted to take a walk through a kapandari, you're not supposed to walk through a shul. But through their shul, you could walk through. So you want to take a shortcut through the shul, that's fine. So you could bring the Eruv there. So Maram Shik is showing some tolerance and acceptance for that shul, so that the Eruv should work. What about the matzah? Okay, so he brings different kulas that you can rely on, flour. Then, getting to the point, in Siman Kuf Peyah, so there are a few, that was something Kuf involved, so there are a few tshuvas that continue discussing the points raised there. And then in Siman Kuf Peyah, he's having this back and forth with a bacher by the name of Bishaya Zilberstein. And in the middle of Kuf Peyalef, he says, and if your chashash, still about this scenario, he says, if your chashash is that they're not mezaka, l'kol b'nei ha'ir, or they don't want to be zeicha in your Eruv, so that would mean that this b'chlal, no, the whole thing is ruined. A karchach, it's not a problem, because if they're putting an Eruv, and they're just continuing, right? The shul was always around. The Eruv, the shul was around, the Eruv was around, they're just continuing, and now there's this new division in Shtat. If they're continuing to put the Eruv, surely they still have the same idea in mind, so they're including everybody. And you can't say that you broke away from them, so now they're angry at you, so they're not being mishtatif in your Eruv. He says, Eruv echatzeres ein tzorech das, d'schus hu lahem. It's a schus. Va'afilu einam reitzim, and what if they don't want? Kaifna midas doim. And he invokes the Rambam in Perek Beis Agedishin, afilu meina reitza, tziraka yedei yetzer hara, shem efateyu, al be'emes benafshe hu reitza. And we should assume that they're not like chanshes doim, zen nanim, they dafka want to ruin the Eruv for you? And we have to rely on that. So this is the Maram Shik, very good. We got to the punchline of the Maram Shik. Maram Shik is on the record saying that in a somewhat related situation where you have a chash, that the Reformed Jews are not mishtatev in the Orthodox Eruv, which makes sure everyone is included. So no, kaifin, or we just assume. Okay, so we have the Maram Shik. So there's also Reb Shlomo Kluger in the Shalas Teshuvos B'charta B'chaim, old Shut, Siman Kuf Chav Gimel, Tarnopol. Someone got into a fight with the whole town, and he's chayzer boy from the area. I'm not part of the area anymore. He decided to hurt everybody. So Shlomo Kluger is disturbed by the whole notion. He says, this is ridiculous. First of all, we already made an Eruv for this year, so you can't just leave the Eruv in the middle of the year. And second of all, even for next year, the Ramah says that if you always are part of the Eruv, then, and you want to stop Neitel Min Bal Karchai, there's an idea of like taking the pas Bal Karchai. And then he says, that if you hold that Bal Karchai doesn't work, that's if you dafka want to take the pas from him, because you have to mamish take something out of his pocket. But dafka if you have zikui, if b'nei chatzar mizakin loy, so then it should work, because he's always part of the Eruv. He can't leave. And then he says, there's a feidish Rashba. And this is a big mucker for those who discuss this. There's a Rashba that says that mad ein zachan la'adam ba'karchai. That's if there's also a bad side. There's a chayiv. He gains something and he loses something. But if it's a schus gamur, af ba'oimet v'tzayek u'maycha, Rashba says zachan la'adam ba'karchai. And he's mitzayin to Avnei Miluim, which I want to get to in a second, Siman Aleph, and Ezra Siman Aleph, which is negayah to some halachas that we learned. And he says, I'm fully on board with this, the Shlomo Kluger says, and there's not an issue also, oh, you're being mezakeh to him, so you're being mezakeh him a matana. Doesn't it say Seina Matanas Yichya? Is that a reason to say that you can't be Mezakim a Matana? It says, no, that's not applicable here. That's Dafka if you're trying to like Mamish give them a Matana. But here you just want to make sure that everyone can carry it. That's all you want over here. So that Zikui is not a stira to Seina Matanas Yichya. And then again, towards the end, he concludes, he says, Puk Chazim Ma'am Dvar. He says, Miyom Yamim, we've been around for centuries. And there's a machlek as it happens, a Yachid and a Rabbim, a guy get very tzikrikt mit the ganze Stadt. Have we ever heard in the past, so we never heard that this ever happened before. So Muslim Zagin, that doesn't work that way. You can't do that. That's Rav Shlomo Kluger's attitude. You see that he's coming with a preconceived notion that it can't be. And then it's mitzayin to the Pri Megadim. The Pri Megadim said he's not sure you're going to mezakeh al karcha. So that he says, well, we have the Rashba, we have all this. He's doicha the Pri Megadim. So Rav Shlomo Kluger is on the record being doicha the Pri Megadim, citing the Rashba and saying that this is really how it works. So the question is though, what's going on over here? So we have this idea. He says, so we said that his father, Reb Chatzkoroth, mentioned Koyach Beistin. So Rabbi Zagroth says that if you don't have a Beistin, so Mele, if the person was always mishtatef in the Eruv, like in the Ramah, and now you want to say we're forcing you to continue as Einzach, that's what all these other, Ram Shik, Shlomo Kluger, they were talking in scenarios where there always was an Eruv, and now we just want to say that things should continue the way they are. Here in Bar Park, or in other scenarios, it's a new Eruv. There is no precedent. So without a koyach based in, how are you going to say that I force you to join? People can have reasons they want to join, they don't want to join. Much harder to force people to join unless there's a koyach based in involved. Okay, he says fine. However, with a koyach based in, that's good, and essentially he wants to make the case that Reb Chatzkoroth and his fellow Rabbanim, they have the power of a koyach based in, which by the way, if that's what he's basing it on, then perhaps one could say that in the case of the larger Brooklyn, or specifically Crown Heights, where can't really make the case that we have Paiskim, local Paiskim, and a Beistin, that might make it a lot schwacher, if that's what that's how it's going to work. No, but those that are against, they say that it's, the koyach based in is just to force you to participate. Never mind. But the Seifkel Seif, the actions, they have this Pri Megadim. That if it's mamish bal karche, mamish, then you can't be mezakeh bal karche. So again, he starts getting into this whole Rashba. You have this Rashba. It's mitzayin to a shut Sherlameshiv. Sherlameshiv says that in our day we have those that are not made of the takanat from. So it says, so someone I mentioned last time, isn't it the vart that you're seicher the reshus from the Sara Ir? So zokt the Sherlameshiv taka we're seicher the reshus from the Sara Ir. That just helps you further the reshus. But what about the Hishtatfus Be'erev? The Hishtatfus Be'erev means that you as a person are being Mishtatef. Sorry, Eir can't help you with that. So that's why that's not relevant to this discussion. We have to figure out how we get the actual person on board. It says, it's the Rashba. So you're being Mezakeh, Schus Gomer, he's not Maida boy. Okay, fine, that's his problem, but really, if he was Maida, he would know. Can't force other people not to. And then it's mitzayin to the Avnei Miluim. So the Avnei Miluim is interesting. The Avnei Miluim is talking about, Ramah says in Siman Aleph, that if the woman shmadzich, you mezakel a get al yedei acher, v'neisei acheres. Mezakel a get, you mamish mezakel, like it's the Gedishin or Chal. So, question is, in fact, Avnei Miluim, how does that work? Especially in Meshemedes, Bepashtus, she certainly does not, she's pursuing Divrei Yisr. She doesn't care about a get, she doesn't want the get. It says, that it's the Rashba and Kedushin, so there's this idea that, based on this Rashba. I want to point out, in conclusion, that there's actually an interesting place in Lekut Sichos where the Rebbe invokes this vart. So in Chelek Chavav and the Esafis, there's a Sicha, a Mesicha is Shabbos Parshas Tisa, Shusham Purim Katan Tavshin Mem Dalet, and the Rebbe says, we printed the new Lekut Torah with Esafis, Ma'amakamis V'Tzionim, And the Rebbe says in Siv Beis, we're going to give mashke, bekesher to this, and the Rebbe says, mit die mashke, sollen sie machen as Vados, in welche alle wollen sich mistamen mishtatev sein, bezochen la'odam shaloi befanov, va'afilu oib metreft azav, was bechitzernius, is das be'al korchoi, Pasken doch der Rambam ben Egel as Sinas get as es helft, wenn Käufen oise ad sheyem ereitzani, alachas kam v'kam bedin di dan, has Vados verbunden, so in Hora 12, it says, Ladas kama achroinim, re'ei machne Ephraim, shut ein Yitzchak, Encyclopedia Talmudis be'erkoi, bedas rishonim, shebedover shechriu chachamim, sheschus gemura huloi, afilu tzaveach, she'en ereitze, zachen loi al karchai. So it's right there.